failure is just an opportunity to get it right next time, right? And you've weeded some things out. And so I've really embraced the failing forward, which I think I did. You can either choose to fail and fall down and not get back up, or you can just fail forward and be in a better place. So.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be fantastic. Our returning guest is the owner and founder of Springstead Solutions, Christina Springstead. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me back. Excited to be here.
Oh, it's great to have you. And let's start off with what's been happening since you were last on the show.
Oh my goodness, so much has been happening. When I was last on, I was getting ready to hire my full-time operations manager that was coming on board and really diving into all of that and being. And since then, she has actually sadly left. And so it has been the adjusting to when a key employee leaves and how do you pick up those pieces and get ready to replace that piece. And then also really dialing in on niching and, all that training that we get in bookkeepers is niching and specialization. Where was I going kind of after losing that key employee and what is business going to look like? So all of the highs of running your own business.
Well, I'm itching to talk about niching.
Yeah.
I just had to use it. That's a dad
love
joke.
It.
That's a dad pun or something like that.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, perfect. Well, that is very interesting, and I almost want to say exciting to talk about both of them but it's not so exciting to lose key people, but it is exciting to hear the learnings from it. And I am so excited for our listener to dig into that. And I know we're going to be talking about cleanup and rescue jobs. Before we get to that, let's just go through and talk a little bit about those two key pieces. Hiring the stuff. And I've had lots of conversations. I mean, it's going to be no surprise that we're talking about this and it's happened to other people. People come and go. Hiring is one of the most difficult and challenging pieces of any business. Managing people, the whole piece. I remember when my mother decided to shut down or sell off, our family bistro, at the end of it, it was really just a thing that just wore her out was the people side of the business. Not the customers, but the dealing with staff, both hiring, maintaining, and all that good stuff. So tell me, you hired her, and go through a little bit of the backstory and tell us a little bit about it, how it came to be, how long it took, and all that good stuff.
Yeah, so we had worked together in our local chamber for a long time. We had worked on lots of projects, and she was just fantastic at the operational side, which I knew through all the trainings. And when I went through A2A and Successful Bookkeeper and getting all of that Pure Bookkeeping, getting licensed, I knew I needed that kind of person for me to really grow. And so brought her on board. The one thing about training in an operational capacity is that there's so much, right? Like you want to train them on everything and they come on board. So it really took some time, and she was here about 2 years. And then we just realized it wasn't her ultimately retirement goal, which was sad. And the learning key for me there really was, I had realized that I was really building my business so that she had enough on her plate to manage over this, hopeful 17-year string of time that we're going to have, and wasn't building the business that I had really dreamed about, because I needed to get to the business where she was good and then I could go do my dream. And so the learning lesson there for me was bringing in the help really caused me to put my dreams and how I wanted my business to be on hold, because I needed to make sure that this key employee was taken care of and had enough work. And so I came out of the other end of that really a blessing, realizing, I need to really focus on niching and structuring my business that serve the goals for the whole reason I got into business in the first place. So for me, I imagine some other people have gone through that, but that was a learning lesson I didn't quite expect, was realizing I was building my business, not for me.
Right. It sounds like you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you were building the role and the business around the needs of a staff member.
Exactly.
Or a potential
Yep.
staff member. Yeah, it's like,
Yep.
oh, this is going to be really great to have you. And I know your life situation is unique. And so we'll just make a unique situation over here, which is awesome. You know, you're putting in systems and process into your business. You're doing that whole E-Myth, Michael Gerber's E-Myth, building a system-driven business. You're going through that process, but yet it's almost, and I'm sure, like you said, many people can relate, you're actually building a people-dependent role.
Correct.
And it doesn't serve you. And so that was a really interesting insight that you had, and a blessing at the end of it now.
Absolutely.
And so what's it going to look like different now? Will you go back and hire another person for this role or change the role? What's the thoughts?
Yeah. So currently, I will say, as I would think would be normal, because this was just about 6 months ago, I have a little PTSD around the idea of hiring.
Yes.
Because when you do hire someone you rely on and then they leave, you have to pick up everything, right? As a business owner, responsible service provider, you have to pick up everything. So right now, I will not, it's not in my goal right now to hire at that capacity, but definitely to hire more of an assistant for myself to make sure that I am getting the support that I need as I'm building this business, rather than bringing someone in to run this business, as I was really still at that time realizing I was still trying to find my niche and what was I doing. And it was very hard to grow and dream into that when I had the responsibility of taking care of a full-time operations manager and making sure she had the workload and capacity and the support for her. So what that's going to look like is more support for me as I'm dreaming and building out this business, the whole reason I went into business in the first place.
Very good. Well, that's, I think, Debbie Roberts, our founder of Pure Bookkeeping, talks about the second in command. And so she was going to be your second in command.
Yep.
And that's an interesting one. So it's like going back and really identifying, hey, my business isn't ready for a second in command. It still has some pieces and parts to figure out. And when those get figured out, you know, the right person will show up for your business to be in that role.
And I think if I can just share, because I think this happens to a lot of us, and this is, a little bit of side tangent, we'll come back, but when you go into entrepreneurial and you get into these wonderful communities, right, your masterminds and your peers and you're building businesses together, I realized it was very easy for me to grab the potential other people saw in me and work on building that out. So people saw that I could do this well. I did this really well. I could do all of these amazing things. And I started building my business off of what people thought I could do really well, paired with getting this operationals person. And so it was very interesting for me to see that I had not seen that I was very much getting sucked into, I don't want to say keeping up with the Joneses, because that really wasn't it. But the second someone was like, you're really good at that, I was like, yes, I am. But it didn't mean it brought me joy. It didn't mean that is why I went into business. It didn't mean that was really a goal or a dream of mine. So that's the other thing for people as we're going into here, is really making sure we're always being aware of the business we're wanting to build, and that the decisions we're making aren't counterintuitive to launching that dream.
So true. We'll get back to the interview right after this word from our sponsor. Tired of drowning in paperwork when you'd rather focus on your clients? With Auto Entry, you can snap photos of receipts and invoices and let Auto Entry do the rest. Capturing, categorizing, and seamlessly syncing data with QuickBooks, Xero, Sage, and more. No manual entry, no more lost receipts, just accurate, real-time transaction capture that saves you hours of admin work. Whether you're scanning receipts, invoices, or bank statements, Auto Entry instantly extracts and organizes your financial data so you can publish reports in seconds instead of spending hours on data entry. Say goodbye to paperwork, reduce errors, and free up more time for what really matters: growing your practice and serving your clients. To learn more or to get started for free, check out Auto Entry at sage.com. Thank you for hearing from our sponsor. Now let's get back to the interview. There's a lot in that, and and in any program or following any kind of recommendation or seeing people do certain things, they're always such unique situations. Everyone's at a different stage. We look at, you could have two people starting a bookkeeping business. It's like, well, what happened 20 years before for each of those people? The life experiences, business experiences, all these things that come into play. So we can't walk in and say, well, if that person can do it, we can do it exactly the same way. There's going to be things we may need to learn, go through, implement before we get to those stages. And it can be very easy to say, well, this is step 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I should be at step 4. But you know what? If you've missed a bit on step 1 and 2, or you need to do something with step 3, it's going right to step 4 is going to be disastrous. And not in a disastrous like everything's over and we've failed. It'll be disastrous and it'll be key learnings and you'll learn a lot just like you did. You learned a lot. And that's the other piece to this whole game is if we think we're not going to change while growing a business, wake up. We're going to change. We're going to cry. We're going to have days we want to give up and stop. But the person that comes out the other end of a successful business is a very different person. We all have to alter who we are to shape that business. And that business will be yours. It'll be uniquely yours, built by you.
Exactly. Yeah. Not being afraid to, so many of us are, I think in our industry as well as perfection, reconciling to the penny, and we expect all these things, but not being afraid to fail forward, I heard, which I love that is, failure is just an opportunity to get it right next time. Right. And you've weeded some things out. And so I've really embraced the failing forward, which I think I did. You can either choose to fail and fall down and not get back up, or you can just fail forward and be in a better place. So.
Nice. Well, that'll be interesting to see where you go with that.
Yeah.
And so then now you've gone into let's niche better, or maybe stronger, more finite niching. Let's hear that story. How did that come about? Have you been trying to do it for a while?
I have actually. So I'm also a Profit First professional, and one of the programs that Mike likes to put us through is Surging, where we're really trying to find our niche, and that's in A2A. It's in all the places. Pick your niche, and I fought it for a long time, like I think a lot of people do, because when you're launching a business, you want to take any potential business coming at you so you can quickly get moving. But for me, what I realized is I really had to go down the path of, is it industry niche? Is it a type of person niche? What was I really wanting to niche in? And I actually found, which fits really well with what we're going to be talking about, is there is a niche that I believe is underserved, where there are companies who need us, whether we're bookkeeping, that's the foundation of my business, but I also do advisory through Profit First. But they need bookkeeping. But eventually, if they're doing well and you're doing well for them, they're going to grow to where outsourced bookkeeping probably isn't really realistic, and they have to bring someone inside. There's the number of transactions, the amount of paperwork that they need to start tracking. And so where I've niched is it's more those businesses that need to bring someone in to handle more of the day-to-day, a little bit more true compliance, job costing, real complicated, time-sensitive data detail tracking. But that person that they're going to bring in, it's not a 40-hour job. So they also are probably the office assistant. They're answering phones. So they're likely not really well trained in accounting. They don't understand accounting fundamentals. They don't truly understand how QuickBooks works, although they can throw a transaction in there, right? So me coming in to check that work, do what I'm calling oversight, do the reconciliations for them, and then train where there's mistakes being made so that we can train up someone in-house to take off a lot of that burden of the, receipt processing that a lot of us in this that we're building don't necessarily want to be doing all that day-to-day transactional work. So someone in-house has transactional, I'm checking and then training and having more time to work with the owner or the president on strategy. Profit First, are we doing that? How do we need to pay down your debts, whatever that is? So that is really the niche that I've been going through, is these businesses that are probably, 1 to 3 million-ish. They're just bringing someone in to help in-house. They don't have time to train that person. That person doesn't have enough knowledge, but they need support. So I have found my niches in that part. And a lot of that includes cleaning up, which gives you the opportunity of how can you help train and help them see how can their finances be ran better for their industry and for the goals of the CEO or the president or the board.
Very cool. So, and that, how long has that been where you've been working on, and how's it been flattening out?
Yeah, I've actually organically been working on it and didn't really realize it for about a year. And just again, after my key employee left about 2.5, 3 months ago, realized I thoroughly enjoy cleanups. There's a group of us that love them. I love them so much. I love to help. I love the difference that we can make in their books from when we started and ended, where they can actually have some answers on things going on in their business where they couldn't figure out why things were so disjointed from their reports. So yeah, I love that part of it. And so I've been organically doing it, but now I've just decided about 2 months ago that this is the thing. This is what I'm going to be pushing into. So fairly new, but I'm extremely excited for it.
Interesting. And have you noticed any, a year is a good chunk of time, and it sounds like, if I'm going to replay this a little bit, there's like complex businesses that
Yep.
it'd be difficult to, their desire is to have in-house, but it's difficult because it's specialized work, highly susceptible to mistakes and errors and messes being made.
Yeah.
Is there particular industries that show up in that space?
A lot of the tradespeople and the nonprofits I've found have wanted it. And the other thing that you mentioned is, yes, the mistakes and all of that. But the other thing is business owners have a hard time trusting people coming into their finances, right? And you hear horrible stories about embezzlement or people taking your money. I have found that that's a lot of concerns. Whereas if you have a third party who can check the work and look for those kind of cues, that has been a huge draw to people as well. So I found that it's really well received. Nonprofits, if they have board of directors, the directors like to have that third party. And I, for nonprofits, want to support the executive director and their accounting team, in-house accounting team, because a lot of times those people need help too. They don't, you get into deferred revenue and you get into grant tracking, and that's way more complicated than the average 40-hour, person in-house is going to be able to handle.
That's right. And would likely reduce turnover on their side too, because if people are coming into work and being challenged by this area that's not necessarily their, passion work or, sphere of experience or just pure, do I want to do this? Am I any good at this? Is this really critical to my role here? Often people stack all these things on people and expect them to do all sorts of different things. And so that can spread into other areas of the business. And then all of a sudden a person leaves and now they're right back at square one. And that's mess, 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 mess. So I can totally see that with nonprofits who are already likely, cost conscious, looking for ways to make the dollars, not all of them. We often think they don't have any money, but many of them do. But that's definitely likely a characteristic of the businesses you're working with. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
And so now here we go into cleanups conversation, which is what we started to talk about and wanted to talk about today. And I just, when Dave came up with this topic, I thought, wow, it's such an interesting one. It's such a hot potato, and always everyone's going to deal differently with a hot potato. Yep. So when did you find out you loved this hot potato?
God, it was a couple of years ago, just working with clients after the cleanup was done and presenting reports in a form. I love that I very much use the pure bookkeeping concept of chart of accounts that make sense, right? Like that are really in line with your taxes, but they're also serve the business owner or director. And so I found I love it in the calls where after the fact, they're like, oh, this is so clean. This makes so much more sense. I can understand these reports. That is what I wanted in my business. That is what I love. And it truly serves both. I love bookkeeping. I don't want to do it all day long, but I don't want to not do it either, right? So it's the combination of getting to come in, putting a puzzle piece together, solving a problem, seeing really great results after the fact, and then sharing it with people who you can just see the relief kind of melt off their faces, like finally something makes sense here. I realized that a couple of years ago. I just did not put into my head that could be the focus of my business until just the last couple months.
Wow. So how do you define a cleanup or rescue job versus just, someone gets a client and it's ongoing bookkeeping services?
Yeah. So cleanup/rescue are similar to me. The difference in rescue from cleanup is like it is very time sensitive. It's for something like an audit or taxes are getting done. Like, rescue me quickly. I need this done in a very time sensitive manner. Cleanup is like, hey, I've got things that have not been taken care of, whether they're messy, whether they were not done poorly, but there is a good chunk of months or maybe years that need to be addressed and accounted for. To me, that's the cleanup. You're going back. It's not forward facing. It's not today and moving forward. It's really lots of history to have to take care of and manage. The monthly is the ongoing, making sure that things are consistently and timely being taken care of. And that timely is really dependent on your client. Do they only care about things monthly? Maybe their cash flow is fine and they've got things dialed in and it's monthly, or do they need stuff daily, weekly? So it's that ongoing, making sure that all of their stuff is being addressed and touched consistently throughout the month, each month.
Mm-hmm. Very interesting and really clear on how you laid all those out. Now, what is it in terms of the mistakes perhaps that other bookkeepers might make, and maybe you've made these mistakes, I'm sure you have, when you're pricing, this job's coming along, it's a rescue. So number one, time scarcity. We need this done by this date, and there's consequences, big ones. Cleanup, maybe not so time, scarcity, but we need to clean it up for a reason. Maybe you don't have to do it as quickly, but there's a lot of work to do. It's almost an unlimited amount of potential work that you could do. And how finite and clean do you want it? Do we want to, blow it with a leaf blower, or are we going to go in with the toothbrush and get every little nook and cranny cleaned up? So that sounds complicated from pricing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How do you handle it?
So I've learned along the way, and I've definitely made the mistakes. The first thing that I make sure I do is I have a very good and detailed discovery call with clients. And it's not just how many bank accounts do you have, how many credit cards, how many transactions do you think you have, but really understanding where are they at and understanding what their business entails. If they talk to you and they mention loans, but you're like, hey, do you have equipment? I'm asking some questions to see how in depth is their books, above and beyond just how many bank accounts and credit cards, because that's what people like to focus on, right? Do they run payroll? Do they have sales tax? Do they take inventory? Asking these questions that are in the very advanced type bookkeeping that people tend to forget about, and you uncover them later. Also, not just trusting the client with what they said. Oh, I only have 2 bank accounts and it's just about 30 transactions. And because it's really never that much, right? Like, a lot of clients think paying their credit card bill is one transaction rather than the 200 transactions that flow through the credit card. And then also doing a diagnostic review. I used to say, let me just hop in your books really quick and take a look, and then I'll quote it. That has never served me well. So doing the paid diagnostic means I'm on the hook to truly take the time to dive in and look at everything. Are banks reconciled? And in the bank feed, there are still tons of transactions within that reconciliation period. Something seems weird here. Do they run payroll, but the payroll entries are just tagged to one categorization, which is wages. That means your payroll is not coming through correctly. Are there liability accounts with massive balances that are incorrect? I do a paid diagnostic review and I dive into all of those sections, any type of accounting that could happen, because oftentimes, again, the business owner doesn't know what's happening. They just know what they have to pay and what they don't have to pay. And they assume bookkeeping is based on that. So those are the things. And then asking some foundational questions. Do they truly understand bookkeeping? And then taking in the emotional sense of, oh, this is going to be a lot of calls with them because they don't really understand. They're going to have a lot of questions. They don't trust. Like, these are very important things to look at, because you can have clients who will just let you do your job. They'll quickly get back to an email. They'll respond to you, and it's an easy job. You can have other clients where you're hunting them down because you need a statement. You can just tell by how people are. Is there going to be some hand-holding involved above and beyond just how many transactions are you going to be running? So I really look at all of those things, but key is a diagnostic review, and don't be lazy about it. Dive in and look for all of the things that could be a thing in bookkeeping, no matter what they told you their business was.
Wow. There's a lot to it. And part of what I think about when you were speaking was there's that part, like this is a big deal. There's a paid component of this. So they've got a problem. There's this bridge between, okay, you're an opportunity. We're looking at you as an opportunity. They're evaluating you as a potential person to solve this problem. And then there's the evaluation of the problem. And so to get paid, to be somebody that they're going to choose, if you get the paid diagnostic, you're probably getting the regular work, right?
Yeah.
There'll be some negotiation, or maybe they didn't like you or whatever. Something dramatic happens where we just paid money to have this diagnostic done and we're deciding not to do it. But 99.99999% of the times, you're going to win that business. And so the real win is getting to a paid diagnostic, which is nice too, because if you think about it, in my opinion, you're starting off on a great foot. It's like all this is valuable, right? So we've had to set up the fact that even doing a paid diagnostic has value, and therefore we need to charge for it. How do you bridge? And I'm sure there's different types of leads. Like this person was referred by someone who just was rescued, right? Or has been rescued or works with you. They're inbound with all this trust and already, I'm going to work with Christina. But then there's people that come in who don't have that not qualification, but that predefined view of you. How do you get from, I'm a cold lead, I got this big problem, to I'm going to close you on this package of a pre-diagnostic, which is going to come with a fee? There's that bridge there that you got to get across. What's that been like for you?
It actually, when I really decided to understand the value of what that was for other people, right? Not just for me and my business and making it easier, but understanding that there is true value behind it, it was easy for me to do it. So when I'm talking with people, I explain out the gate is I won't even attempt to give you, ballpark. I love that. Just give me a ballpark of what. No, because I don't know what ballpark we're playing and I don't know what type of ball we're playing here. And so I tell them up front is like I would be doing you a disservice to give you a quote when I haven't been in your books and really understand. And it'd also be a disservice to you, because if I don't understand the workload and then I quote you something and come back because I didn't take time to really dive in and tell you what you're looking at, then when I tell you the real cost of what's happening because I uncovered it, right? That's not a good look or feel for either of us. It's not going to be a good look for me to go back and tell you, hey, I just uncovered this. And it's not for you. It's not going to feel good that you thought it was going to cost you this much and it's not going to cost you that much. I also make sure my clients understand, and I really had to own this, is your books have to matter to you as much as they matter to me, right? I'm going to go in and I am committed to your books being accurate. But if you really don't care about your books on a regular basis and you are just doing your books for a tax return, I'm not your girl. I don't want to be that service provider. There's plenty of people who will do that. But for me, I had to decide the type of service I want. And it's detailed, it's in-depth, and it's accurate. And if that's not a value for you, bookkeeping is just a thing you have to do and deal with, then I'm not your right provider. And I will turn away business if that is someone's. So I make it very clear I'm not your cheapest and I'm not trying to be, because I care about your books and I want them to be accurate every month.
So cool. There's going to be different types of rescues and they're going to be driving different things. There's, the people who see the light, let's say, and I know working with Profit First professionals and the magic that they do with understanding exactly where things are at and really being able to turn the ship and make the profits start dropping big into the owner's pockets. That's big. If they understand that and they see that, it's like they get excited about paying for services that lead them to that future versus, it's like, it's really connecting that. Why are we doing this? And do you care? And if you don't, we're not going to work together. And I love the way you handle it and talk about it. I can see that be very powerful when you're dealing with prospective clients. But on that note, where do the leads come from? Because that would also be, you may get different types of leads that, this is a person who's, there's going to be certain referral partners, birds of a feather flock together. And so if you've been working with people who are pains or they aren't doing the books right or don't care, they probably know people that are just like them. And they, hey, we love working with Christina. send more. It's like, whoa, we don't want to work with those kind of people. But I'm curious where your leads come from, and the better customers you have, the better leads you get. What
A
about
lot.
you? Where do they come from?
Yeah, mine come from a couple different sources. My local chamber, I'm heavily involved in the community. I do trainings here for our chamber, and then for our local builders exchange, they come from there. Current clients will refer as well. I have partnered with some CPAs, also CPAs that I know work well, that I know that I can trust what they're doing and they're communicative. And so they'll come from there. And then I also am a preferred vendor for a CPA who has a pretty large Facebook group. She had brought in some preferred vendors and through there. So my leads come from all of those different places. The bulk of them lately, though, have been from word of mouth.
Mm-hmm. Which are probably really nice ones because they're people that know you and trust you and can vet your character and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
And that's, it's a kind of the game is to build up those great referring partners and referring sources that lead to good business. Now, you get these clients, cleanup clients, and you're working on them. You, in a way, is there a conversation around turning those into recurring business clients? How does that look, and what's the experience been for you with having them be ongoing customers?
Yeah, so we definitely do discuss that out the front. And I'm a no pressure type person. So even when I do your diagnostic review, they do get like a summary report of what was found. So it's not the how to fix it, but the what needs to be fixed. And they are invited to take it to any other bookkeeper if they want and get quoted. I am not trying to hold anybody. I do the diagnostic review. I do it paid for a reason, because if it doesn't work out for us, that's great. But we do have that conversation that at the end of this, if if you like what I found and you want it getting cleaned up and you've liked working with me and it is a mutually beneficial relationship, right, on both parts, then we'll talk about moving forward. Because and I also am very clear, if you're someone where I have to babysit you to get your documents and I have to do that, that's not an ideal client for me. Not only are you interviewing me for my services, I'm interviewing you to provide services for. It's really been critical for me to have clients who respect. I tell all of my potential clients, I'm not just a vendor, I'm your partner, which means there's expectations on both sides. It's not you've hired me and there's that, but I am committed to delivering the service. And if you are my roadblock, then that's not good for me, right? It doesn't look good for me. It doesn't feel good for you. So there is the discussion of, if we both feel like we'd like to move forward, then I give them, here's what it'll take to address what I found, which is a requirement, not an option. It's a requirement to do this work. And then after that, we talk about moving forward monthly. And even in the cleanup, you can find things that the diagnostic didn't review. So I don't commit to a monthly fee until after the cleanup is done, because inevitably there's something you find when you're really in deep in your cleanup work that wasn't disclosed or couldn't even be found on the diagnostic review. So I don't lock myself in at any point of this journey until we actually get to talking about monthly ongoing.
Wow, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple really cool concepts there, which is, your style is almost a reverse close. And the reverse close is, I don't think we're meant to work together. It's like, have them basically say, no, we will. It's like, if this is going to be you, then we're not going to work together. Those are lovely ways of positioning and the language that you use. And also, I think for you, just my sense of you is you've done a lot of work to really believe everything you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Because if you don't believe it, it's going to land differently than if you really truly get this. And that comes from experience, right? It's making mistakes, it's being up at bat. And a number of times it's like more reps get you better at whatever you're doing.
Exactly.
If you're doing the right reps and you're doing the reps right. But now you have also, and I remember hearing this a long time ago from a friend, and he's a consultant, Colin, and he talked about, it was actually in the construction industry, and he worked with a client that was growing a construction business. And, it's a similar kind of, like, we need to know how much this is going to cost. And like a renovation who knows what it's going to cost. So he put together a very detailed diagnostic of, okay, this is the design, this is, down to the screw. What are we going to cost? What's this going to cost for you? And it was very similar language. It's like, you can take that diagnostic and you can shop it to other vendors after we're done. So you're putting sort of this risk, you're removing risk in the making the decision to buy the diagnostic program by saying the diagnostic program is not just going to be to work with me, but you can shop that at other bookkeepers. And we know that anybody that's doing this kind of diagnostic and professionalism, at the end of it, it's yours to lose. Like, it's not likely going to go the other way. It's going to be your business. But it does remove risk for them to say, oh, well, you know what? I'm going to pay for this. It's X amount of dollars. But then I have a very clean understanding and clear understanding of what we're dealing with. And I can, if I don't like Christina, I can shop it over to somebody else. That increases the conversion rate dramatically, I would imagine. So it's a great positioning. And I love that you're using that.
Yeah. And I price the diagnostic in the fact that if I don't win any job past that, it wasn't a lot. I don't have it as a loss leader for me, right?
That's right. It's worth the business. It's valuable to you. It's
exactly.
not. This is not a bad thing to lose the business. You're making money on the diagnostic. I love that.
Yeah. And then also, I know I've heard some people is if you do the diagnostic, then we'll credit your cleanup, for the price of the diagnostic. I only credit 50% because I still had to do that work. And so that's one thing that I learned that I really like too, is it's not a full credit to the work because I still had to take extra time in this part of time. So I tell them, hey, half of the credit will go towards your cleanup work, but the other half is charged because this call and the time it took to land you and all those things. So I've really come to peace and harmony with that part of it as well.
Yeah, and I think it's even something interesting. Didn't even think about that, but I would say it's one of those pieces that you have to love, and that's even better. Just the more you love doing the work and it's valuable to the business. For me to get money back on it, we all like getting money back. We like to remove risk. That's another piece of removal of the risk. But I think 50% is even, that's a question that it's up to you and the person that's delivering it. Is there enough? Because essentially you want to be paid for every single work that you do. And if you've made it 50% less burden put on you to do the work, fulfill the work, then yes. But if you're not, then I'd say it's got to go even lower, 25%, whatever. Yeah. But that's a great place to be. And I love that you're in that spot because you're pricing these right. And it's any job you do, you're getting paid for it. And you're, that's lovely. And likely converting a lot of them to actually getting the cleanup work.
Yes. My rate to convert it's pretty good.
I would imagine. We're probably up in the, if you don't convert, it's a darn good thing.
Yes, exactly. And it was probably my choice. It was probably my choice not to convert. So
that's right. Yeah. Great system, great setup. And I love that. Now, let's talk a little bit about your process. You're a Pure Bookkeeping licensee. You've gone through 808. You're a profit first professional. You've done a lot of things. You've invested heavily in your business. How do the systems help you in this work now? Like, we know the Pure Bookkeeping system is very detailed, standard operating procedures for the business. Does that help, or how has it helped? How is it working for you in your business?
Yeah, it has definitely helped. It really gives you that foundation to make sure you're not checking one of those hidden areas, right, that can catch you later down the road. So I've appreciated the very detailed, thorough systems that came with that. And then me being able to customize and tailor that to how I want to work with the clients and putting that into my workflow. So it has made conversions a lot faster. It has having those workflows when I'm going through a diagnostic review. I know exactly what I need to check step 1, step 2, step 3. And those are all in an order that I'm probably not going to miss something. There's very seldom that I'm caught off guard on a cleanup. It happens. Inevitably, there's something, but it's weird. It's not really normal. But those things come in. And so so it makes getting the job done faster and more efficient and actually more enjoyable, because there's a set way to go about things that it makes more sense, that you're not ending up having to unwind things at the end. You're like, oh, I didn't do that. And maybe you reconciled too fast. And now this account needs to be, we've all had those times where you go in and you think you're done with something, and then you dive into one other area and you're like, oh my gosh, that affects this. Now I've got to undo that. It's really allowed me to have less of that kind of rework or undoing and then a redoing type of situation. So it's made it more efficient, more effective, and ultimately more profitable.
That's exciting. That's exciting. Just love that. And then the Accelerate to Advisor program, you went through that. I'd love to hear, why did you do it? How did that set you up for now what you're doing today?
Yeah, well, I went through it, one, because I love Lisa and she's a fellow Profit First professional. And I was looking for, how did I get to level up my business and my understanding and workflows? How could I get these things quickly and within community? I love learning from other people. I think that's one of the best ways to learn, on the job kind of learning rather than theory-based to dive into something. And I love that there was community, plus there was education, plus there was online. It was easy access. It was great. So I went into that for that reason. I just knew that I wanted to not do this walk by myself. And I'm the type that I didn't necessarily want to do it with people here in my community, because as you're learning and you're stumbling and you're bruising your toes, you don't necessarily, I think I said this last time I was on here, you don't necessarily want the person, your competitor in the grocery store to be seeing you stubbing your toes, right? Or your client. You want to walk through this in a safe environment. And that's the thing about these types of programs is you can be very vulnerable. You can share what you're really struggling with. And then you can go out and go to the grocery store and not worry about, oh, someone knows my most intimate business details. And you know what I mean? It's a very way to compartmentalize what you have going on. That created an extremely safe space for me, which I think is important for people if you're a little bit more guarded and you're a perfectionist and you don't want people to know that you're stumbling. A lot easier to just say, I'm going to see you in a Zoom room, but I won't see you later today at the chamber event. So.
That's right. I love that. And the safe space, that's what leads to the magic that can happen in your own transformation. And it just makes it's transactionally in the world, it's smart not to do that. I mean, the idea, I remember the concept was the concept of being naive, right? To think that people don't care, or naive to think that they don't judge you as a business person, whereas you need to take consideration into what does this mean to the rest of the community in terms of what you say, do, how you transact in business. It all adds up. And so if you're not paying attention to that, it can be it can be a way that you don't want it to be. And I think in this world especially, people forget about the fact that, people are going to judge you on, we're talking business here. They judge you. Friends judge you. People pay you money, going to judge you big time. So it's just one of those key factors, and you've been smart about it. Now, Profit First, I absolutely love Profit First, and it's done so much for our business. It's just, I don't know what we'd do without it. I have to think sometimes why, everyone should be doing it. They should have this training. They should be leveraging this with their clients. Not only is it amazing for the end user, the client, the business, but it's also amazing for you, likely, in your business, the way you operate your business. If that was all you got, it would be worth 10x what you paid for it and invested your time, energy into it. How has it impacted your business? That's what I've seen with others. I'd love to know how it's been going for you.
Really great, actually. And I have following Profit First has been truly a business saver. And I say that unfortunately, there was 2 clients that I had. They were major clients. They made a third of my revenue. And both of them ended up going in, I'll call it belly up. One took a little bit, but within 5 months of each other. And it was because of Profit First that I was able to maintain all the way 10 months later until it actually a little bit hit me because I was rebuilding out of that because it was a major hit. But I didn't really feel it in my home for 10 months. And it was like, oh, we needed to, tighten things down. And I knew that. But I was able to pay my bills. I was able to pay my taxes when they came due. I didn't have this stress of, oh my gosh, how am I going to just pay the day-to-day stuff, because I had followed Profit First for so long. It also lets me know when I'm ready to invest in something or buy something. I love that because I'm shiny solutions that have, right? People call them, I'm a shiny solutions person. I'll find it, want to do it. I know if I can afford it or if I can't. My Profit First helps tell me, yes, I can invest that or not. Because even though I run people's books and I follow the system, I'm not immune to being, drawn in by quick solutions. And so I love that it helps me make decisions and removes emotion from it. And there's just a lot of security. I know way ahead of time if I need to buckle things down. I know way ahead of time if it's time for me to invest. It's been a game changer in that aspect, just peace about where I'm at cash flow wise.
Yeah, absolutely. And business owners need these things. They're humans, right?
Yep.
And a lot of the characteristics of an entrepreneur are characteristics that need, some ropes to be set up, some velvet ropes, keep over here, keep the money over here. Let's keep you on track. That kind of accountability and mentorship when it comes to, here's all the money, this is where it's flowing, this is where we need it to flow. And when it flows those places, you end up getting what you want. We again, naive to think that an entrepreneur can just figure that out on their own, or even if they knew it, would their human condition allow them to do it?
Right.
Likely not. That's where the value is, and that's never going to change. And it's just such a beautiful add-on to any kind of bookkeeping business. Is extremely valuable to the end user, extremely valuable to the business. From being able to generate revenue and as well run your business from a profitability standpoint.
Absolutely.
So cool. You're doing some great things. It's been great to catch up. I hope our listener has learned a few things about the cleanup jobs, niching, and as well a little bit of hiring there at the beginning. So Christina, I want to thank you on behalf of our listeners for coming on the show and sharing all the great things you know. And if people want to learn more about you, where would they do that? How would they do that?
They can visit my website, springsteadsolutions.com. That has all the links to all the other places that they can find me. So I would say start there.
Very cool, very valuable. Sounds like you also have a resource that would be helpful for our listeners. What is that and how can they find it?
Yeah, so I came up with just a quick checklist for bookkeepers who are getting ready to go through and doing the cleanup jobs, things to think about, and then things to make sure that they're looking for during the cleanup. So happy to share that resource for them, and hopefully this makes it a more productive, fun, and profitable piece of their business.
Great. So this is going to be on your free resources page, and that's at the website you mentioned, and as well, we will have that link in the show to just get right. So if you go to the show notes, we'll just have the link to go right to those, to that checklist, and it sounds super valuable. Listener, if you're doing any kind of this work, you're going to want to grab that from Christina. And thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
I'm really happy that you were on the show. And I hope more businesses are able to find and work with you. And I know your clients are likely very happy and blessed to be able to work with someone like you of your caliber. So thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Beautiful. And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.